it's a difficult transition from having a baby to going back to work.
Yes.
And to make that difficult, which it was before, was, I think, unfortunate is not strong enough, really absurd.
Yes, yes. It's crazy, but with this enactment of the Pump Act, I think it would protect a lot of mothers and hopefully provide
Yeah.
a lot of safeguards for them.
So Congress has just passed the Pump Act, right?
And
So,
yes, December 29th of last year.
yeah, very important act, applies nationwide. Why do you think it's such an important act?
It's important because it provides nursing mothers during their first year after they give birth to their babies, time and as well as a space to pump when they need to. So it provides them with like a secluded location that has to be private, as well as the break time needed.
Yeah.
And it's available for all mothers, regardless of yours, like exempt or unexempt status.
Yes.
And I believe it was 50 employees or more
Yeah.
that it had, and it's required by employers. If you ask for it, then you have to get the accommodations for it.
Right, and I think it's important because, right, expressing breast milk at work, I mean, my wife's had 4 kids, right? I know you have a child. It's not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of equipment you have to bring. It's not something that you can just pop out and do very easily, right?
Yes.
It's a process, right?
Yes.
I've never had to do it, but I have seen my wife do it, and I know it is not fun or.
Yes, there's all sorts of gadgets, right?
Right.
Yes.
So I think prior to this act, there were no protections for women who needed to express milk at work. And so we had crazy stories of employers who would, if they gave the woman a break at all, it was unpaid, and they'd be like, okay, well, you can go into the bathroom and do it.
Yes,
And
or
like,
your car.
Right, or your car. You're sitting in your car, you're sitting in the bathroom where people are coming in and out, people can see you. I mean, it's already a difficult, I think you could speak to this as a new mother, and I know from my wife and I having kids, like it's a difficult transition from having a baby to going back to work.
Yes.
And to make that difficult, which it was before, was, I think, unfortunate is not strong enough, really absurd.
Yes, yes. I remember there was a case where there was a woman who was pumping, and she tried to do it in her office, but her male coworker next door would hear everything because the walls were so thin.
Yeah.
And he would make noises, like
cow
cow
noises.
noises,
Yeah,
and
right.
comment on her
Yeah.
doing the pumping, and I mean it was a mess. And there's another case where another mother had to go into a bathroom and had another one of her coworkers stand guard because I think it was only like a 1-person bathroom, and so she would have to like mind people coming back and forth because the bathroom people
Yeah.
need the bathroom too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's crazy, but with this enactment of the Pump Act, I think it would protect a lot of mothers and hopefully provide
Yeah.
a lot of safeguards for them.
Yeah, I mean, and the other important thing I think about the act, as you mentioned, it's under the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Yes.
It applies to all employees, and as we know, with a lot of employment laws, it doesn't apply to all employees, right? Because they have to be a certain size employer. But with the Pump Act, it applies to almost every employee. There are some limited exceptions. And like you said before, particularly for women who were, for example, police officers, there was a case and before the Pump Act where a woman, she had a baby, came back and wanted a desk job so she could be able to express milk and like recover from pregnancy. And when she started to ask for complain about the fact that she was being sent to the bathroom to pump, they put her back on a foot beat, right? So she had to be out walking around, and not only was she out walking around, but she had to wear required to wear a bulletproof vest, which was very painful for her. And she was having to find like places, right, when she was out on the beat to pump work. And to your point, the employer had clearly retaliated against her. They were upset that she was kind of making waves about this. And under the Pump Act, it's now illegal for an employer to retaliate against you for simply, trying to get 15 minutes to take a break so you can express milk at work.
Yes, exactly. And I believe under the Pump Act that it is you do have a private right to sue, and you don't have to go through the EOC.
That's right.
Yeah, I think you just have to give a 10-day notice to your employer that if they're not going to comply, then you're going to be filing suit. So
Yeah.
it's,
It's a pretty big hammer for employees to use against employers, because not only do you have to there's no what they call administrative exhaustion requirement. You don't have to file with the EOC, but you can also get your attorney's fees paid for.
Yes.
There are other damages associated with it. So for employers that find themselves on the wrong side of the act, and let's face it, they shouldn't be, right? Come on. Give people 15 minutes,
Yes.
a couple times a day to express milk. If they find themselves on the wrong side of that, it can be a costly mistake for the employer.
I do remember that there was a limit that I believe if you have employees under 50, you can say that you do have an undue hardship
Yes.
in providing that space or that break time.
Yes.
But I mean, doing that is a pretty high bar as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, exactly. Yes, you can. If you're under 50 employees, you can.
These 50 employees.
Yeah, is it 50?
I'm
50.
pretty sure
50.
50.
Under 50 employees. Yes, you can be exempt from the requirement, but you're right. You have to show an undue burden, which is as we know is a pretty high bar that you suggest under the law. It can't be just it's inconvenient for
Yes.
us, right? It has to be something much more substantial than that. So while there is a carve out, for smaller employers, it's not a kind of an exemption you can drive a truck through, which we've seen in some laws. It's a pretty narrow one.
Yes, that's true.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really much needed, and it's sad it took till 2023 to get this law in place.
Yeah, I think it became effective in April 28th, on April 28th of this year.
Yeah.
So it was signed in December of last year,
Yeah.
but it didn't become effective until April. So
Yeah.
we're probably going to see a lot of different cases spring up from that.
Yeah, absolutely.